right, welcome everybody to the Jim Acosta Show. It is Thursday and it is unraveling for Donald Trump. His trip to the Middle East has revealed itself as a presidential money grab, schmoozing with dictators to line his pockets. Most notably, of course, is his ridiculous scheme to accept a free $400 million plane from the Qataris to use as Air Force One. I'll talk to California Senator Adam Schiff in just a moment about Trump administration corruption and how it may be spreading to other officials in the administration. Surprise, surprise. In the meantime, Republicans are beginning to defy Donald Trump. Witness the House and Senate Republicans who are bolting on his big, beautiful spending bill, which is really nothing more than a tax giveaway to the rich and powerful in this country. And notice what happened today at the Supreme Court. This was very important today, folks. Justices he appointed to the high court. That's right. People like Brett Kavanaugh, people like Amy Coney Barrett, they are asking pointed questions of the Trump administration and specifically about Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship in this country. Remember, Donald Trump returned to the White House with a promise to lower inflation, to lower prices for you, the American people. He has promised to do that, but he has failed to keep that promise. I'm going to talk about that in just a few moments with Adam Schiff as well. Let's try to bring in the senator. Right now, I understand he is standing by, and we'll bring him into the discussion here, and we'll see where the discussion goes. The senator very kind enough to give us some of his time today. I understand this is going to be his first Substack live interview, so we've heard that a number of times from various members of Congress. We had Hakeem Jeffries, the House Democratic leader, not too long ago. Pete Buttigieg, he did his first Substack live here on the Jim Acosta Show. And now we're bringing in Senator Adam Schiff, who is obviously a very influential lawmaker up on Capitol Hill. He's going to be just connecting in just a few moments. We're letting the Substack machine do its work. As I've talked about many times, it happens from time to time. You know, we have to get those hamsters spinning furiously in the wheel inside the Substack machine. But once they do their job, we'll get the senator on the program. And the reason why I brought up Trump's promise to lower inflation for you, the American people, remember, that was why many people thought here in Washington he was returned to the White House, elected back to the White House as president of the United States. Of course, he has failed to keep that promise, which, of course, was never something he really cared about to begin with. He wanted to return to the White House, of course, to bring his brand of corrupt authoritarianism to America, and that work continues. But I want to give you a headline from CNBC. This came out just a little while ago, earlier today. Price increases are coming soon to a Walmart near you on Thursday. The Walmart CFO, that's of course today, earlier today, the Walmart CFO, John David Rainey, warned investors that even the retail giant known for its discounts will have to raise prices of many items because of tariffs, despite a 90-day reprieve that lowered those tariffs on Chinese imports to 30%. Goods from other countries face just a 10% tariff at this point. This is what the CFO of Walmart said earlier today in a CNBC interview. We're trying to navigate this the best that we can, he said, but this is a little bit unprecedented in terms of the speed and magnitude in which the price increases are coming. That is something, obviously, I want to bring up with Senator Schiff. Let's see. Hold on just a second here. We're going to just pause for a moment because sometimes, as we know, these things can just take a little extra time, and want to make sure that we're all good in good shape here. He's coming to us, I believe, from up on Capitol Hill today, and it's been very busy up there. We've been seeing lots of hearings and so on up there. The other thing I want to bring up, Senator Schiff has been on the case when it comes to public corruption, rooting out corruption inside the Trump administration. And of course, all of that flows right up to Donald Trump himself. But a publication that I don't cite enough on this show, that I want to cite more of on this show, is ProPublica. And ProPublica has a very important story out earlier today. I think Senator Schiff is going to weigh in on this as well. It says this: Attorney General Pam Bondi sold between $1 and $5 million worth of shares of Trump Media the same day that Trump unveiled his tariffs that caused the stock market to plummet. And there's Senator Schiff right there. Senator Schiff, great to see you on the show.
Hey,
Thanks for
Jim,
doing
how
this.
are you?
I'm doing fine. Really appreciate the time. I understand this is your first Substack. Is that correct?
It is in this form, certainly, and great to see you. Appreciate your work.
Hey, I appreciate your work as well. Thanks so much. No, I was just laying out for the viewers at home there, and they're chiming in. They're giving their comments as well. This is a slightly different experience than your typical cable news interview, so we'll get some feedback from the viewers out there. But I mean, I think we should just get right to it. I mean, Trump's trip to the Middle East has really put his penchant for corrupt authoritarianism on display. And I was talking about the Air Force One gambit. He obviously wants to take this gift from the Qataris to the tune of $400 million. And I understand you're requesting that the Department of Defense's Office of Inspector General launch an inquiry into all of this. What can you tell us about that?
Well, they've already acknowledged that when they did their legal analysis, and of course, here we're relying on the incredibly independent, objective analysis of Pam Bondi, but they've even acknowledged that it would be unlawful, unconstitutional for them to accept this aircraft, this $400 million gift from the Qataris, if it went directly to the Trump Foundation. So they want to launder it through the Defense Department, which
Yeah.
doesn't make it any more legal. It just pulls the Defense Department into this scheme to enrich the president. And so, what I want to know from the Defense Department is a number of things. First of all, what is this going to cost taxpayers if they have to somehow retrofit this aircraft, if they've got to go through and extensively debug it, make sure that there's no electronic surveillance, if they've got to bring it up to the standards of an Air Force One and all the rest of that? What's it going to cost the taxpayer? How long is it going to take? If this isn't going to be ready for a couple years, it means that basically Trump is going to get this aircraft on his way out the door. And it's really about just the private use of this plane by the president. But also, what is the DoD doing to protect themselves from being a party, willing or unwilling, to this graft, this scheme? What does it mean also for our national security? Because the Qataris aren't stupid. They want something for their $400 million investment. If it
Yeah.
were just a nice gesture, Jim, as the president likes to claim, they would have given you the plane, or
Yeah.
maybe given, someone off the street the plane. No, they gave it to the president for a reason.
Right. And to me, I mean, the question I wanted to ask today is, what is this? Oprah, you get a plane, you get a plane. I mean, apparently, Kristi Noem, the DHS secretary, wants her own new plane as well. That's been coming out in the headlines today. And you mentioned Pam Bondi, the attorney general, signing off on this. I know that you have chimed in with a tweet about a story that was in ProPublica in the last 24 hours, talking about how she sold between $1 million and $5 million worth of shares of Trump Media the same day that Trump unveiled his tariffs. I mean, the larger picture here, and I've been talking about this on my show, is that they're just doing this in plain sight, just acts of blatant corruption. And the question has to be asked: what can be done about this? I know Democrats are in the minority in the Senate, over in the House. Difficult to hold hearings, but is there any way to shame these Republicans into holding some hearings here?
I think there is. In the near term, probably not to the extent of holding a whole hearing on it. But nevertheless, confronting our colleagues here in Congress with just the blatant graft and the danger that it poses, forcing them not to look away, can be really impactful. And to give you one illustration, I put a hold on Ed Martin's nomination
Mm.
for U.S. Attorney in D.C. This was someone with no prosecutorial experience, someone who was a stop the steal lawyer, someone who said we should go easier on people who beat cops, someone who was promoting avowed Nazi admirers. This is a partial list. And the longer we held his nomination, the more that we brought out to the public about his unfitness for office, the bigger a burden it became to the Republicans on the Judiciary Committee, to the point where his nomination went down. They knew that wouldn't pass, and so they moved on. So it can have an impact. That kind of oversight is important. But I think it's even more important vis-a-vis the public. And because the numbers are so big with the Trump graft, it's hard for people to wrap their head around it.
Yeah.
Because it's out in the open, it's hard for the country to wrap its head around it. And in fact, the Trump administration is quite aware of this. The defenders say, well, it's all out in the open, it's transparent, as if transparent corruption makes it any less corrupt. But to give you one other quick illustration, the Trump meme coin
Right.
and this gala dinner they're inviting people to with a promise of access to the president and a White House tour. That meme coin, whether it goes up in value or down in value, the transaction fees all go into the pocket of Donald Trump. It's the most clear graft. But because this is out in the open, in a way, it's really hard for people to understand just how crooked a deal this is.
Yeah.
And I think people think, well, how is this gala different than a campaign fundraising gala?
Yeah.
The difference is this money is not going to some campaign. This
Right.
money is going right into Donald Trump's pocket. And I think we need to spell that out for folks.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when we thought, gosh, when folks were doing obnoxious things for campaign donations, that that was pretty bad stuff. And here he's just putting the money in his pockets. I mean, I've been describing it as sort of like those game shows where people run through the supermarket with a shopping cart and just try to pile as many goodies into the shopping cart as possible. That seems to be what he's doing with the White House and what with the presidency. And it seems to me what you need is, I've been thinking about, because lawmakers always come up with clever names for bills. Is there a way we can come up with a scam act, stop corruption and mischief act, and limit the president to just what he's supposed to get paid in office? I don't know. I'm spitballing here, Senator, but it just seems to me this is nuts, and it's almost whack-a-mole. Everywhere you look, he's trying to scam the public.
That's exactly right. And by the way, I like that idea for the title of a bill. I
Please
will
take
put an
it.
asterisk and give you credit for that. But the other thing is, and your comment about Christy Nome and the aircraft
Yeah,
is perfect in the sense that they're all trying to get in on the act now.
yeah,
Everybody's trying to cash in. We have this, the real Secretary of State, Witkoff, not Marco Rubio. He's got a very limited profile, but
yeah.
Witkoff is the real Secretary of State. His son is cashing in with the Trump sons
Right.
with a stable coin, another crypto venture that just got a $2 billion infusion from the Gulf.
Yeah.
And everybody's cashing in. Pam Bondi's cashing in. Christine Nome wants to cash in. And you know who we have largely to thank for this? A guy named John Roberts, who just
Yeah.
happens to be Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who gave Donald Trump immunity. You give a convicted felon like Donald Trump immunity and you make him president of the United States, and he's going to act like a crook with immunity, which is
Yeah.
what he's doing. And the
He,
people around him, they know they're getting a pardon on the way out the door. So they're acting just as crooked as he is.
he's absolutely emboldened in all of this, and I covered him during the first administration. I think he's far more dangerous this time around. There's no question about it. You know that all too well, Senator. And I was having a conversation about some of this with Ruth Ben-Ghiat yesterday. And while it is kind of funny to laugh at some of this stuff because it's just so outlandish, there is a danger to it, in that as this oligarchy that Trump seems to be surrounding himself with, as they enrich themselves, it almost seems as though the circle can get bigger and more people can get sucked in and pulled in and enticed to join in on the corruption, and that might make all of these characters a little bit more difficult to dislodge from power. I mean, as they accumulate this and amass this kind of wealth, one has to think it makes them harder to beat at the ballot box. I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I certainly agree. And I think
Yeah,
probably the case in point is Elon Musk.
yeah,
Here's Elon Musk, in addition to doing the Tesla showroom on the White House grounds, because the stock in his company
yeah,
has been in a nosedive. I think even worse, perhaps far worse, is as Trump has imposed tariffs on these other countries, they're coming to Trump to try to get out from under the tariffs, but they're also coming to Elon. And Elon is pitching them on his Starlink
right.
satellite system. And they recognize, because we see it in leaked cables, they recognize that one way to ingratiate themselves with the administration is to buy Elon's product.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Elon has the most patent conflicts of interest. Uh, and, you know, they fired the head of the Office of Government Ethics who would be policing this stuff.
Yeah.
But
It,
but you're right. And then Elon takes the money he makes from the sales of these satellite systems and plows it into the Trump political operation.
yep.
After that Tesla showroom on the White House grounds, he put another 100 million into the Trump political operation. So if you're seeing ads, I mean, I'm seeing ads promoting Donald Trump. He's not even running for anything.
Yeah.
This is you know the oligarchs propping up this corrupt president whose numbers are sinking, and they want to prop him up as long as they can because the gravy train is running, and they want to get that gravy.
Yeah, it's almost like a an SNL skit of a home shopping network, except it's all of Trump's corrupt schemes and scams that he wants to pull over on the American people. You mentioned the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Senator. I have to ask you about this very important case in front of the High Court today about birthright citizenship. It fits right in with all of these other, sketchy, unconstitutional things, dangerous things that he's been trying to do with respect to migrants in this country. Wanted to get your thoughts on that and whether or not the notion of birthright citizenship could be in danger right now, which I mean, that opens up a huge Pandora's box in terms of what can be done to migrant families, mixed status families. These are the kinds of issues that I've been focusing in on this program. A lot of people in your state in fear of this right now.
You know, it's difficult to extrapolate sometimes from the justices'
Yeah.
arguments and whether they're playing devil's advocate or whether they're really the devil.
Yeah.
But what I'm taking away from the coverage I've seen so far is a recognition that birthright citizenship is very clear from the Constitution.
Yeah.
The Trump administration is not going to win on the merits. And so they're shifting to a different objective in that case. And the different objective is to try to strike down the use of nationwide injunctions. And of course, what that refers to is when something unconstitutional, like an attack on birthright citizenship, takes place, and you go to a court for relief, that court has the power to issue an injunction against deporting, for example, people born in the United States because they're citizens, and have that injunction apply nationwide. And what the Trump administration wants to do is they want to stop judges from being able to issue injunctions nationwide, even
Mm,
though they were thrilled to do it when Biden was president.
right.
And but
And the
now
court
they,
shopping that they would do and so on. Yeah.
oh, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So now they want to limit what has been a really important tool to protect the American people against these unconstitutional acts. And it seems like a lot of the argument today by the Trump solicitor and a lot of the receptivity on the bench had less to do with birthright and more to do with limiting this really important
Mm,
tool.
wow.
If they take that action, which I wouldn't be surprised to see the conservative justices try to do it,
Try to
it
carve out a
will
win for Trump in some fashion that might please them. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's worrisome. And I did wonder, there's also a story in the New York Times today. DHS has requested more than 20,000 National Guard members to help with the immigration crackdown. Of course, we know that the National Guard has been used down on the border before for beefing up, security along the border and so on. But a Defense Department official said if the request were approved, it would be the first time National Guard troops were used to help enforce the immigration crackdown in the United States. And so it sort of ties in with what we were talking about earlier. There's so many different things happening on this front. It's hard to keep track of them all, but to use the National Guard in this fashion would be unprecedented, and I think would cause a lot of fear in a lot of communities. If you're seeing armored carriers and people in their military fatigues conducting operations with ICE and so on, I mean that does not sound like America to me.
No, and I think there are additional problems as well, and that is it's going to inevitably create a conflict between the president and the governors about how these
Yeah,
guards
yeah.
are used. It is going to cause the public to have a different perception of the National Guard and what their role and responsibilities are. I think it will affect military readiness and cohesion. If they're diverted to these other missions, it'll mean that they're less mission capable in terms of the
Mhm.
national security mission that they were really designed for. So lots of adverse impacts. Part of this, I think, is just the continuation of the Trump administration effort at shock and awe, the muzzle velocity Steve Bannon was promoting.
Yeah.
They want to do more and more extreme things, arrest judges, call out the National Guard, send people to maximum security prisons outside the country, violate court orders. I still takes my breath away that the Supreme Court of the United States, this right-wing court, um, essentially orders the president to facilitate the return of someone who it was clear violation of the law
Right.
to deport or render. The president is meeting with the president of El Salvador. He could
Yeah.
ask for the return. He refuses to do so. He acknowledges he could just pick up the phone. He's openly contemptuous
Yeah.
of both the Supreme Court and the lower court. That is really unprecedented. And for people who might be tempted to think, well, I'm not a suspected gang member. Why should I care about that? If they can grab anyone off the street and give them a label, or violate a court order and send you overseas, or make the argument that as long as they send you overseas before the court can intervene, there's nothing the courts can do, then really no one is safe.
Yeah, that is scary. And when you have Stephen Miller going out in front of the White House and saying, well, we might suspend habeas corpus, the ability to challenge unlawful detention in this country, that is also a scary thought. And taking away people's birthright citizenship, using the National Guard in this fashion. I mean, it really sounds like a militarized campaign of fear that they're trying to spread throughout the migrant communities in this country, and a lot of these folks just don't know what to do. I mean, Sonia Sotomayor at the Supreme Court today was talking about the possibility, if you take away birthright citizenship, of stateless kids. I mean, just that it's astonishing what we've seen take place just in the last 100 days or so. But to see Stephen Miller have the gumption to say that out in front of the White House, I can't imagine a Biden administration official going out in front of the White House and saying we might get rid of habeas corpus, and what the reaction might be to that over on Fox or on the Republican side of things.
It's astonishing. I met with a
Yeah.
group of young people today
Yeah.
who are the children of visa holders. So their parents came to the country. Many of them worked in the tech sector. And they're the children of people who came here legally. They have been applying for citizenship, but because the process takes so long, they've turned 21, they've aged out of it. So they've aged out of their legal status. And
Mm.
so they had status, they came here lawfully, and then through no fault of their own, they've aged out of status.
Wow.
And now they have to worry about being deported. And in a prior administration, you wouldn't have to worry that we would deport folks in that circumstance, but they do have to worry about it. Just over the weekend, I don't know if you saw this footage from Worcester, Mass,
Oh yes.
of someone being grabbed by these hooded DHS figures, her daughter screaming. I imagine that's your mother that's being grabbed off the street.
Absolutely.
The horror and the heartbreak of it. And it is, of course, designed to frighten people. And
Absolutely.
the astounding thing to me is just how quickly they've created this climate of fear, not just in the immigrant community, but at universities, in law firms, throughout society. People worried that a social media post could cost them their job. For a administration that once claimed it was against censorship, we're seeing so much censorship now, and it's awful. And
Yeah.
there's only one response to this, and it is that we have to stick together and push back and show courage.
Yeah.
When Harvard stepped up against this administration, it inspired other universities to do the same. Of course, when law firms capitulated, it inspired other law firms to capitulate too. So the best remedy here is the contagion of courage.
Yeah. And Senator, I mean, you've stood up to Trump for years, and I'm sure it must be a big shock to you to see major institutions in this country, the media, law firms, universities, basically bend the knee. And you know Donald Trump all too well. I mean, to me, it is the exact wrong thing to do because it's just like that Supreme Court immunity decision. Any opening he sees, he will take it. He will feel emboldened by those sorts of things, and he preys on weakness, any signs of weakness. That's like showing red in front of a bull, a red flag in front of a bull.
That is so true. And,
Yeah,
very, close to home for you, I'm sure must be this case involving CBS,
yeah,
where Trump sues CBS over a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris, a clearly frivolous case.
yeah.
There is no way
Ridiculous.
in the world, if that case went to trial, he would ever win that case.
Exactly.
But of course, CBS is part of Paramount. Paramount wants to merge with Skydance, and Donald Trump can leverage that merger to extract money from CBS.
Yeah,
And you just can't give in to that. You just
yeah,
can't give in to that. Uh, but we saw ABC capitulate and settle a similar and meritless lawsuit by Trump.
exactly.
And when those cases are settled, that money doesn't go to the Treasury.
No,
That money goes into Donald Trump's pocket, right
exactly.
into his pocket. In the
Yeah,
category of getting in on the scheme, you've got Melania Trump is being paid $40 million by Amazon
it's
for
unreal.
a for licensing a documentary about Melania Trump.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I think it makes the case for strong public media in this country. PBS and NPR, they're one of the favorite punching bags of the right, and they're going after it again. I just wonder, in this big beautiful bill that Trump's been talking about, which Republicans appear to be balking at as well, not only because of the cost, but because it's going to go after Medicaid, and it sounds like when it comes to the Senate, comes out of the Senate, it's going to be a very different piece of legislation. But if there's any way to protect public broadcasting, it seems to me it's now more than ever.
I think that's exactly
Yeah.
right. I met with some folks from NPR earlier today,
Hmm.
who are deeply worried about the continuation of public broadcasting at a time when, as you say, it's just more important than ever.
Yeah.
But because their reporting is objective, their reporting is fact based, because they're not willing to carry a party line by any party, they're a threat. They're considered a threat
Yeah.
to the administration, and so they're a target.
Yeah.
It's the same reason they're going after these universities. They think these universities are a hotbed of ideas that they don't like, and so they want to cripple them by taking away their funding. And in the process, they're defunding the golden goose of innovation. I mean, this
Yeah.
partnership between research universities and the federal government has brought about such dramatic advances in science and in medicine.
Yeah.
What they're doing is just such a boon to China and even Europe and its universities, like
Researchers are
basically.
going overseas. They're saying, "I forget about this. I don't want to deal with this. I'll go to France or Germany." Yeah.
Absolutely.
Incredible. Just incredible.
Well, and I,
Well,
I want to
yeah.
say I really admire your courage as a journalist.
Oh,
I
thank you,
know
Senator.
you put up with hell during the first administration, and you stood tall. There's never been a more challenging time, I think, to be a member of the press. And so I have great respect for what you do, what you did, and hats off to you.
Well, I appreciate that. And what you said earlier about not giving in, that's been my message here is, and we either stand up to the bully or we're all in a bunch of trouble. And to me, it's all about not giving into the lies, not giving into the fear. So, and I know that you've been doing that during your time in Congress, and I really appreciate the time. You've given us a lot of time this afternoon. Hope we can do it again soon.
Look forward to it. It's great to see you again.
All right, good to see you too. Hope that wasn't too excruciating. I appreciate the time.
You
Thanks a
bet.
lot,
Take care
Senator.
now.
All right, good to see you. That's Senator Adam Schiff of California. And I want to bring in Olivia Troye very quickly because she and I were texting each other earlier today about this Supreme Court case. And there's a lot to unpack with the Supreme Court case. I mean, obviously, what some of the Supreme Court justices were saying was hugely important, and Senator Schiff is absolutely right. You have to be careful about extrapolating too much from Supreme Court arguments because sometimes these justices just they want to play the contrarian to draw out what the arguments are from the participants in the case. But hey, Olivia, how you doing?
Well, how are you?
Good to see you. Good to see you. And I was just talking to Senator Schiff about the birthright citizenship case and a bunch of other stuff. And I know you were closely watching the Supreme Court, these arguments that were being heard before the High Court today. What was your takeaway? I mean, to me, the chilling thing that was said, and Sonia Sotomayor is kind of becoming. I know people got really mad at Ruth Bader Ginsburg because of what happened, and she stayed too long, and so on. But Sonia Sotomayor just finds a way in all of these high-profile cases to just sort of clarify things so well. And when she talked about the prospect of stateless kids,
Mhm.
it's true. You could end up with a situation like that. It's just unreal.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I
Yeah.
actually think she's doing an amazing job on just getting right to the brass tacks of what this
Hmm.
really is, which is an assault on our Constitution. Let's be honest. I mean, that's what is going on here by the Trump administration. And I listened to the entire thing today. I couldn't get away from it. You know that I
Yeah.
was already texting you this morning, being like
Yep.
the Kermit the Frog gif of like frantically like
Typing
biting my
away.
nails. That was me and typing. Um, because for me, it was a culmination of having worked with Stephen Miller and thinking about the fact that today was probably his like the one dream he's always wanted. This is
Yeah.
it.
This is
And
a Super Bowl.
right, this is it.
Yeah.
And it makes me sick to my stomach to actually think about the fact that this is actually being pushed and that this could potentially be decided in a way that paves the road for what's going to happen
Yeah.
here going forward. And I know
Yeah.
people online and social media, I was reading the comments and they're like, well, this is about injunctions. And I'm like, no, it is about the greater picture. Let's be
Yeah.
honest here. It really
Well,
is about
Senator
what
Schiff,
happens.
yeah, Senator Schiff was making that point that if, I mean, nationwide injunctions are scrapped or set aside as a result of this, I mean, that is a scary prospect during a Trump administration. If a federal judge can't put a national injunction in place, based on this policy or that policy. I mean, can you imagine, if habeas corpus gets to the high court and something were like that were to happen, that would be unreal. But you're absolutely right. This is the bigger picture. If you can just strip citizenship from people in this country, who decides that? How does that work? I think that's what a couple of the justices were asking. How would that work?
Well, it's basically
Yeah.
where it's going to define like who is an American.
Yeah.
That's what this is, right? And I think that is what is so nauseating to think about because, and also, I was one of the arguments that was said that I thought was just very clear to lay out to someone when they ask the questions on this is like, so let me get this straight. If a person's a US citizen in one state and in this situation, they cross the state line, are they no longer a citizen then? Once they cross that line and they're in a different state, what happens then?
Yeah.
And I'm just seeing this sort of like rabbit hole that is going to Pandora's box being opened. And I think, you know, it was the first executive, one of the first. It was on the first day of his administration that Trump issued this executive order on
Yeah.
presidential citizenship. And I think they are going to try everything to see if it can stick. And so, I also thought there was a good moment there where Justice Amy Coney Barrett actually defended her colleague, the conservative, like she defended the liberal,
Yeah.
Justice Kagan, and said, actually she was addressing the Trump team and saying like, you just completely dismissed her questions, and that was, kind of
Yeah.
showing like show some respect here. So I thought that's important, that they're sort of kind of banding together on this because I'm hoping that they're all realizing this is about the Constitution at the end of the day. That's where this is going. So
Right. Yeah.
I'm hoping that
Exactly.
Roberts, maybe Coney Barrett.
Even Brett
Yeah.
Kavanaugh sounded highly skeptical of this.
Yeah.
And so do you end up with a situation where it's just the two MAGA, big time MAGA justices, Alito and
What they
Clarence
are. Let's just
Thomas?
call them
Yeah.
that. That's what they are.
Yeah, that's what
I
they
mean,
are. That's what they are. They might as well come in with red hats and robes. But the other thing, Olivia, I wanted to ask you about, because this comes out of your wheelhouse in national security, is this idea, and I saw it reported in the New York Times. Obviously, somebody is putting this in the New York Times, leaking it from the administration. They want to float this out there. This idea that they're going to use 20,000 National Guard members to help with the immigration crackdown, and this does not sound like border enhancement, things that have been done in the past during both Republican and Democratic administrations. This sounds like sending the National Guard into neighborhoods to grab people.
yeah,
And that's scary.
and this is quite frankly something that I think they wanted to do during the first term. It kind of came up in some of these discussions, so we're
Mm,
seeing the fruition of how Stephen Miller is actually now has all the power and is in charge. There's actually a great article, by the way,
Yes.
out where it talks about the power that he has amassed and all of the things that he's doing across a number of things, not just immigration, which is frightening. But I think, I worry about what this looks like when there's a first incident where these untrained people are going to go into these communities. And I think we're going to see lives put at risk significantly. I mean, we're already seeing kind of aggression from
Yeah.
ICE agents. So now you're going to put in the National Guard. And also, I just think it puts them in a horrible position because that's not their job,
That's not what they signed up for.
right?
Somebody was just making the comment earlier. This is not what the National Guard
No,
signed up
it's
for.
not what they do. And also, you know what? We don't have a head of FEMA anymore because they just fired the head of FEMA, and Christine
Right.
Nome is trying to abolish FEMA. And they don't seem to care about the fact that the red states are going to get likely hit with hurricanes this season. So we
Bingo.
need the National Guard to come in and things like that. I mean, if we need them as backup, like let's focus on things where there's detriment to the American lives right now. And so I just think that this is a distraction and a misuse of what the National Guard does and their capabilities. And
Yeah,
this
I
is
mean, I covered Hurricane Katrina back in the day. I'm dating
yes.
myself. Yes, I'm that old, but we ran out of food while we were covering that. We were in Biloxi, Mississippi, and it was so bad there. We eventually like started to run out of food, all the food we put in our news vehicle and everything. And it was a couple of National Guard guys who gave us MREs. I was like, "You guys need some food?" We were like, "Yes, thank you." We ate
Yeah.
because of that evening, and then we had some more supplies come in. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The National Guard is a critical part of emergency response in this country. Without those guys, you're in big trouble. Um, the other thing I have to ask you about, Olivia, and this might make you chuckle because you saw some of this the first time around. Apparently, they want to have a military parade in Washington on Trump's birthday to the tune of, that's right, facepalm, 25 to 45 million dollars. This is the latest in the Washington Post. 25 to 45 million dollars is the estimated price tag. Will involve dozens of warplanes, hundreds of army vehicles, and thousands of soldiers from across the country, potentially sleeping in downtown government office buildings. I don't. Is this what's happening here? Is this an
No, it's
invasion?
disgusting. It's disgusting. And also, the military has jobs to do, right? They
Right.
have jobs to do rather than lauding, oh, the great leader. And yes, this is something that Trump wanted to do. And now, I mean, I think he's going to get away with it. And it's going to cost us millions of dollars in the Doge era, which doesn't really kind of add up, right?
Yeah.
And the other
Whoops.
thing,
What happened there?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And the other thing I would be questioning right now is so we're going to spend millions of dollars on these shenanigans and this pomp and circumstance. It's theatrics, right? Misuse of the military because he thinks he's Putin.
Exactly.
And yet we're going to gut Medicaid. That's the direction this is all going in. We are gutting resources across the federal government.
Food
We are getting research
assistance. I
on
mean, you name it.
yeah, research on cancer. Research. I mean, but
Yep.
let's do a parade. That seems like a great use of resources and funds. Like that is what's so infuriating about this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. One is, I mean, apparently there's some talk that, well, if they roll the tanks in, they could, destroy the streets in Washington. It'll be a giant fiasco for them. I remember the last time they tried to do this, they had to put like platforms down or something like that on the National Mall so they could park tanks or armored vehicles and that sort of thing down there. So I was like, shh, don't tell them that they might do this
Destroy
because
the
it'll be even
city.
more embarrassing for them. But the
Yeah.
other thing too is like it goes back to he's such a needy person. There's something just sad and wrong about him that you need this. Like, why do you need this? It's like the $400 million plane from the Qataris. Why?
Palace in the
Aren't you
sky.
secure?
Mar-a-Lago in the sky. Is that what he's gonna call it?
Exactly. Mar-a-Lago. Qatar-a-Lago, I think is what some people have been calling this. But no, I mean, there's something that's just deeply wrong with him. Full stop.
It's the narcissist in him and the control freak, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we're gonna end up with this whatever aircraft this is gonna be. That, like Senator Schiff said, I was listening in. He's
Yeah.
absolutely right. We're gonna have to debug and figure out what else. I mean, I just can't even process the situation. The fact that this is
You
actually a really legit thing that they're going to actually consider and do.
you would have
Uh,
to, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because you come from this realm, the national
mhm,
security intel realm. You would have to literally tear the plane apart.
absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
you'd have to check everything down to the
Rebuild the
wheels.
entire thing, actually. That would probably be the safest bet. So what's the point? I mean, just what, to keep the gold rails inside and the gold seats and the gold toilet? Is that
Yeah,
what we're doing here? So if that's the case, you know what? Just paint the toilet. Can we get a staffer to just go in
paint
with
the
spray paint?
toilet.
You know what? If I were
Um,
still there, I would maybe volunteer to do that. Here, I was like, let me save the American people tax dollars because they need
yeah.
money for other things, and I'll just paint the damn toilet and
Well,
see if he notices.
they've got the crappy gold leafing behind him on the fireplace. I'm sure you've seen that, and
Yes.
had to like swallow your vomit, but like it's so tacky. And it's, maybe Senator Schiff was talking about them parking the Teslas on the south lawn of the White House. Maybe, maybe Trump is onto something. Maybe we just put models of a gold-plated Air Force One on the South Lawn, and a gold-plated Beast on the South Lawn, and just it's like a little amusement park for the geriatric POTUS who's just kind of losing it day by day, and just say, come on, Grandpa, instead of him going out and doing a press conference or signing, just have him like get on the little fake plane, get into the little fake
Well,
car. you
isn't
know.
that how he got drawn into it? Wasn't
Well,
it?
that's true.
I mean, that's what attracted to him to begin with, right? Didn't he tour it or something, and then he fell in love with the plane, and they were like, "Hey, this is a great opportunity to bribe him. Let's just
Yeah,
dangle it." It's classic manipulation for intel officers to run an asset that way and be like, "Oh, you like this?" And then you
yeah.
coincidentally just show up and dangle the golden like plane in front of him, and you're like, "Oh, here you go. Enjoy. It's just a gift. No strings attached.
Yeah.
Don't worry
My
about
God. You
it."
know, it's just a little scary and sad, to the extent that they're taking this. But, when Christy Nome wants a plane and Pam Bondi's selling stock, I mean, it's true. We were talking about with Adam Schiff earlier. I mean, it's kind of nuts the way that they're doing this out in the open, to the extent that Mike Johnson, apparently the speaker, has said, well, they're doing it out in the open, or this is all happening out in the open. What's the big deal? I mean, banks get robbed in broad daylight. I mean, what's the big deal?
So lawlessness all around. I mean, that doesn't make it okay, right? But apparently it does. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess if that's Mike Johnson's reaction, then there's no accountability in that branch either for the Republicans. So it's
Yeah.
a free for all. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we should be digging on what the members of Congress are doing on the Republican side.
My
Or
goodness.
they, I mean,
Yeah.
they're probably in on the grift, I'm sure. In
Yeah.
some,
But it feels very Oprah. You get a plane. POTUS, you get a plane. Christy Nome, you get a plane. Look under your seat. Look under your seat. See if there's a golden ticket under there. Yes, Marco Rubio, you get a golden plane too. We'll have the UAE
it's
build it or something. It's just,
ridiculous.
you can't make
Ridiculous.
this stuff up. All right. Well, great to see you, Olivia. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll continue to plot other things. And there's lots of stuff. There's stuff a brewing.
There's
I'm
stuff
not going to
written.
say it out loud just yet, but there's stuff a brewing. But great to see you, Olivia. Thanks
All
a
right.
lot.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
You too. Bye. All right. Let's bring in uh my man Mike Fanone. He's got some stuff to say. He's ready to go. He's got some thoughts on his mind. And we need to bring Mike into this because, sometimes I feel like I kind of, because it's my old days as a reporter, I kind of tiptoe around and I just beat around the bush and I don't get right to it. Mike, we don't worry about that with Mike Fano. Mike, where are you? Are you at the tattoo parlor?
I'm at the tattoo parlor. I'm giving a little segue into tomorrow's 5 to 6 p.m. BYOB with Mike Fanone. I'll be here
Okay.
live getting tattooed and drinking alcohol, which is not something that I would recommend anyone do.
That's okay. Which part you don't recommend? The drinking, the alcohol, or the tattooing, or
It's
both at the same time?
it's the combination of the two at the same time. It's not recommended,
Because
but it's necessary for the segment. So
I mean, can you choose one or the other, or it's just, screw it. We're just going to do this thing.
no, man, I promised my viewers that BYOB means that Mike Fanone's drinking, and I
Bring
also
your own
promised them
tats
that
too.
I promised them I'd get tattooed, so both are happening simultaneously.
I love this. And then we got some good looking ink behind you there, some nice samples. When I
That's
see you,
right.
Mike, when I see you though, when we went to the Nats and the O's the other night, you're pretty inked up as it is. but there are some places where I guess we could go, I suppose, without revealing
And
too much.
there's always room for more. Yeah, I mean there is like a no fly zone, so to speak.
Yeah, no kidding. I wouldn't be able to take one of those damn tattoos, especially you talk about that. I mean, hell no. I'm going out the same way I came in. Um, well, good to see you, man. And you and I were talking about some of this earlier today via text. It's a good thing that the viewer at home cannot read what you and I send back and forth or what I send back and forth, Olivia. Maybe the NSA can, but that's another thing. But you wanted to talk about how today is National Peace Officers Day, I believe, Police Officers Day. It's Police Week in DC, and I mean, we got to get right to this because this is pissing me off. This was in the Washington Post. A man convicted of beating police officers during the January 6th Capitol attack now sells $50 January 6th hostages T-shirts and is launching a 22-stop nationwide freedom tour. I don't know who the hell's going to show up for that. Another guy who calls himself the Jan 6 former felon on X is soliciting donations for a personal freedom fund. And it just, the list goes on and on. I guess they learned from the master. He's getting a $400 million plane from the Qataris. Why not get on the grift too if you're a January 6 criminal?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, like, it is a grift. It's sad. It's disgusting. It's disgraceful. It's a slap in the face to the police officers that fought to defend the Capitol on January 6th, 2021. But I also have a different viewpoint. Like I always think back to the movie Inglorious Bastards, and there's a scene in
Great
there
movie.
where Aldo Raine says, we like our Nazis in uniform. And so I like my maggots in uniform. So if you guys want to wear your stupid swag, that's great because at least I know who the enemy is and I know who I'm dealing with when I'm out there on the street. So keep it up, man. Buy your stupid red hats and buy your MAGA whatever swag. Um, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I guess part of it is maybe they nobody will hire them, so they've got to do something. But my God, go be a barista at Starbucks. I mean, there's there's lots of jobs out there. Have some self-respect. I mean,
But I will say this, there's a cover photo in that article in which a guy co-opted the POW MIA symbol from, the Vietnam era, honoring our POWs and our missing in action, and used it as a Jan 6 Patriots fugitive or Patriot, whatever, incarcerated people's bullshit. I just wonder how our Vietnam vets and all of our veterans feel about somebody co-opting that emblem and using it to profit for those that stormed the Capitol on January 6th. I mean, I
yeah,
can imagine what they think. It's probably they want to punch the guy in the face.
yeah.